Hello Year 4, welcome to your maths lesson for today. Today we're moving on from our addition and subtraction of fractions, and we are going to be, oh look, I've got an ups moment, I've written find twice. Today we're going to be finding fractions of amounts, but before we do that, we're going to have a little warm up, okay? Now we haven't seen one of these before, it's called a practice pyramid. So it's a new thing, we haven't ever tried one before, but I thought it'd be quite nice to have a go. So there are 20 points for you to collect, and how many can you score out of 20? So you have got 6 minutes. I do want you to time yourself, so 6 minutes maximum, and you have got some different levels here of the pyramid, and as we go up the pyramid, the points you can earn for each question increase by 1 as the questions get a little more challenging. Okay, so at the bottom here you are being asked to write in what fractions are shaded, adding 2 fractions together and writing an equivalent fraction. If you wanted to do level 2, you've got a problem to solve, 2 problems to solve, 3 problems to solve. 3-point question, what could the missing part be? And what's the answer to this calculation? And 4 points is thinking about which bar model represents the questions correctly. The sheet is on the Google Drive for you to print off if you would like to. However, you do not need to. You could just do the questions on a sheet and you could mark your own. I'm going to ask you in a moment to pause the video, set yourself a timer for 6 minutes, and then when you come back, I will flip the answers on so you can be your own teacher. You can mark your own, see how many points you scored out of 20. So pause me now and then come back in 6 minutes. Go. How did you get on? Let's go on to the answers. So here are the answers. So you can mark your own here. The answers are also on the Google Drive, so you can pop over there and have a look as well. But these are all the answers. How many points did you score out of 20? You can pause it here while you mark your own, or you can come back to it at the end. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to move on to today's learning. So today we're going to be thinking about fractions of amounts, but before we do that, I think it's really important that we understand our bar model images, our bar model diagrams showing how many parts. So a very quick, simple activity for you to do. Match the bar models to the correct fractions. You can see 4 fractions, 4 unit fractions, the numerator is 1, 4 bar models. Pause now, and can you match them up? Go. Right, how did you get on? Let's see, let's try and match them. So I've got my line here. Might need a diagonal line, so I'm going to go for one of those. So I can see that if I'm looking for a third, I know that my bar needs to have 3 equal parts. The denominator tells me that. I can see it's not this one, there's definitely more than 3 parts there. This one's got 4 parts, this one's got 2 parts, so it must be this one. So I'm going to match my third up to this bar model here where I've got 1/3 shaded. Okay, if I'm looking for a quarter, I can see that one is right there. I've got 1 shaded. It doesn't really matter which quarter is shaded, but I can see that I have got 1 of them shaded. A half you should be able to recognise really easily, and then that leaves us with 1/6 shaded over here. So hopefully you managed to get all those right. It's really important we understand how bar models work, because we're going to be using those today to help us solve finding fractions of quantity. So we're going to be looking at numbers today. Okay, so let's move on. So we're going to start with this problem here to have a look at, and it says Eva has got 12 toy cars and a quarter of her cars are red. How many red cars are there? So what we really need to know first is what's the information here? What do we need to help us answer this question? Well, we need this bit of information. We need to know how many cars Eva's got, and we need to know how many red ones there are, because that is what the question is asking us. Now, I can draw a bar for this. I can draw a bar model for this. So here is my hole, okay? And I know that the hole is 12. Eva's got 12 cars in total, okay? And I've got to find 1/4 of them. So if I've got to find 1/4, if we go back to our bar model here, I know that I've got to find one part out of 4, okay? So underneath this bar model, I'm going to draw another one, and I'm going to divide this bar model into 4 equal parts. They might not be really totally equal because I'm trying to do it on the computer and it's quite tricky, but they're pretty much equal. They're not too bad. Okay, so I'm going to imagine that this is a car, okay? And I know that Eva's got 12 of them. So I could pop 12 in here in the top of the bar, but I'm not going to, but you could draw 12 dots in there. And I know that if I'm finding a quarter, if I'm sharing between these 4 equal parts, that it's got to be equal. So I'm going to put 1 in there, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well that's 4, but I've got to get 12 in there. I haven't made my bar big enough, has I? 2. That's 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 8. Still need to keep going. 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I've shared my 12 equally. What I need to know though is 1/4. And if I'm finding 1/4, then all I need to do is count one of the parts. And here it is. So I could write the calculation 1/4 of 12 is equal to, and you can see here in this 1/4, I've got 3 parts. Okay, so using a bar model and the sharing of the whole can help you. I can also see a relationship though between these 3 numbers, between the number 4 and the number 12 and the number 3. I wonder if you can spot it as well. There is a relationship between those 3 numbers. Pause now and have a think. Did you spot the relationship? I bet you did. I know that this is a fact family. I know that I can do 3 multiplied by 4 and that equals 12. I know I can do 4 multiplied by 3 and that equals 12. I can do 12 divided by 4 and that equals 3. And I can do 12 divided by 3 and that equals 4. So I can use this fact family to help me. 1/4 of 12 is really just the same as saying 12 divided by 4. Because that's what we've done, isn't it? We've taken our 12 and we've divided it into 4 equal groups. And I've got 3 in each group. So fractions are really just like dividing when we're finding fractions of amounts. How would this be different then? How would the answer be different here if I wanted to find if 3/4 of Eva's cars were red? So if 3/4 of her 12 cars were red, how would that be different? Pause it now and have a little think. You're absolutely right. I need to look at my numerator here, because if I think about this question, it was asking me about 1 part. But here, I know that 3 parts of Eva's car are red. So I'm not counting 1 part, I'm not counting 2 parts, but I'm actually counting 3 parts. And I can see in these 3 parts, I've got 3, add 3, add 3. I've got 9. So 3/4 of 12 are 9. 3/4 of Eva's 12 cars are now red. That means 9 of them are red. Okay. So, here we've got Dexter, and Dexter's really just done the same problem that we've done. He's found 1/4 of 12, but he's shown his bars like that, and that's absolutely fine. So what I'd like you to do in a moment is you have got some questions here, and it says, can you use Dexter's method by sharing to find the amounts? And we're looking at unit fractions, so we're only finding 1 part. It might be that you can spot the relationship between the numbers, and you might be able to just do that in your head thinking about multiplication and division, and that's okay. If you need to draw a bar, that's also okay. So it's entirely up to you. So what I want you to do is I would like you, when I say go, to pause the video and have a go at those 4 calculations there. okay, and then come back and we'll have a look at the answers, and then I'm going to reveal what's under here for your next challenge. So pause now, go. Right, how did you get on? Hopefully you did a good old job. I'm not going to do all the bar models for you. I'm just going to give you the answers, because I know that 1/6 of 12, if I've got 12 and I divide it by 6, I know that each part's going to have 2, and I want 1 part. Okay, so that is 2. I'm going to change it to red so you can see it. If I've got 1/3 of 12, well, I know that 1/3, if I've got 12 and I divide it by 3, I know that that's going to be 4 in each part. If I've got 1/3 of 18, I know that 18 divided by 3 is 6, so there are going to be 6 in each part. And if I've got 1/9 of 18, I know that 18 divided by 9 is 2. Okay, so hopefully you were able to do those with not too much trouble. If you did find them tricky, I suggest you use a bar for this next bit. Okay, because now what we're going to do is we're going to use Dexter's method to calculate, we're not looking at unit fractions now, we're looking at non-unit fractions where the numerator is greater than 1. So think about what we did here. When Eva was finding 1/4, we counted 1 part. When she was finding 3/4, we counted 3 parts. Okay, so use that to help you here. So use Dexter's method to calculate 5/6 of 12, 2/3 of 12, 2/3 of 18, and 7/9 of 18. Maybe the answers here that you've already got will help you, because I can see that 1/6 of 12 is 2. If I've got 5 of those though, I've got 5 lots of 2. So maybe the answers that you've already found here can help you answer these questions. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to pause now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do the answers to those calculations. So pause me now and then come back. So how did we get on? I know that I can use these answers here to help me. You may have done a bar model, and that's brilliant practice. So if you have, that's absolutely fine. But I know that the answer to this is 10, because I know that 1/6 is 2, but I've got 5 of them. So all I've done is I've done 5 lots of 2. I've just multiplied my 5 by my 2 to get 10. So if I continue doing that down here, I know that 1/3 of 12 is 4. But I haven't got 1/3, I've got 2/3. So 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. Times tables are really handy, aren't they? It's important that you know them. I know here I've got 1/3 of 18, which is equal to 6. But I haven't got 1/3, I've got 2/3. So that's going to be 2 multiplied by 6, 2 lots of 6, which is 12. And here I can see I've got 1/9 of 18, which is equal to 2. But I don't want 1/9, I want 7/9. So I'm going to do 7 lots of 2, 7 multiplied by 2, which is 14. Okay. So hopefully that has started to get that maths brain warmed up about finding fractions of the math. Now Tiny has come along here. Then there's a question. It says there are 84 children in the hall. Okay. And half of these children are girls. How many girls are there? Now, Tiny thinks that we can use counters. What do you think? Could we use 84 counters? Or can you see a problem there? Yeah, you're right, aren't you? 84 counters is going to take a long time for us to count out. So we're going to need to use what we know about partitioning numbers and about fractions to help us solve this problem, because counting out 84 counters isn't really an efficient way. And we know mathematicians are lazy. We know we need to be efficient. So I am going to draw another bar model. And I know that my whole is 84. I can see that from the question quite clearly. Okay, and then I'm going to put underneath it another bar model, another part to my bar. And this time I'm going to use my fraction, and I'm looking at my denominator to tell me how many parts I've got. And I can see I've got 2 equal parts. So I'm going to divide this bar into 2. Now, if I think about my 84, how could I partition it into tens and ones? Yeah, you're right, aren't you? I can see that I've got an 80, that's my tens, and I've also got a 4, that's my ones. Okay, I'm going to make my 4 here blue as well so you can see it clearly. So all I've got to do is I've got to split my 80 between 2 equal parts. Well, if I know what 8 divided by 2 is, I know what 80 divided by 2 is, don't I? Because I just make it 10 times bigger. And I know that 8 divided by 2 is 4, so 80 divided by 2 is 10 times bigger, which is 40. And I know what 4 divided by 2 is. I know that that is 2. I'm going to make that blue. Okay, so if I put those 2 parts back together, if I add them back together, I've got 40 add 2, which is equal to 42. So this part, let's move these along a bit, is 42. This one's got to be equal, so this one's also got to be 42. So how many girls are there? Well, a half of 84 is equal to, we just want 1/2. We don't want both halves, we just want one. So we just need this part here. We just need the 42. Okay. So we've got to think about what we know about partitioning numbers as well here, don't we? All right. Moving on then. Okay, you can always go back and play if you want to re-watch it again. You know you can always stop and go back and try and have another think about it, because I'm going to ask you to do a very similar question. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now, there are not 84 children in the hall anymore, there are 80 in the hall, and I'd like you to find how many girls there are. Half of them are girls. How many are there? So pause now and have a go at that. You might need a bar model, you might not. Pause now. How did you get on? This one wasn't too tricky at all, was it? Because I know that all I'm doing if I'm finding half of 80 is I'm doing 80 divided by 2. I'm using my denominator to tell me how many parts I've got, and I've got 2 equal parts. Well, if I know 8 divided by 2, which I do, we've just done it, is equal to 4, then 80 divided by 2 is equal to 40. It's 10 times bigger. So that wasn't too tricky. But now have a go at this. 3/8 of the girls are, 3/8 of the children, are girls this time. So how is this going to be different to this? I can see that my fraction is different. I can see that my denominator is no longer a 2, it's an 8. And I can see that I'm not looking for 1 part this time, but I'm looking for 3 parts. So when I say go, pause the video. I want you to go off and have a little look at how you could work that out, and come back and I will show you with a bar model. Right, how did you get on? I'm going to pop all that in the recycle bin for a moment. I don't think we need that there. So how did you get on with this question here then? So 3/8 of the children are girls. So we're trying to find 3/8 of 80. Okay, we've still got 80 girls. We've still got 80 children, sorry, they're there. But I want to find 3/8 of them now. So with my bar model, I can see that there are 80 girls. Sorry, there are 80 children in the whole. I've got to find out how many girls there are. There are 3/8. I know that there's going to be less than 40. How do I know that? How do I know there's going to be less than 40 girls? Well, I know there's less than 40 because I know that 4/8 is equivalent to a half. And we just found out that 80, half of 80 was 40. So I know there's going to be less than that because I've got less than a half here. Okay, so let's draw our other bar underneath. Now this time our bar doesn't need to be split into 2 equal parts. We're looking at that denominator. It needs to be split into 8 equal parts. It's quite tricky to do that on here. So I'm going to split it into half. If I split each half again, those are going to be quarters. Then if I split each quarter, hopefully they're going to be 8s. They're kind of even, equal, equivalent, the same as. They're not too bad. And all I've got to do now is I've got to share my 80 into these 8 parts. Okay, well if I think about what the calculation is I'm doing, all I'm doing is this. I'm doing 80 divided by 8. I've got 80, that's my whole. I've got 8 equal parts. So if I know my times tables, I know that if I divide 80 by 8, each part is going to have 10. Okay, so each of these parts is 10. So let's put them in. And then we'll check in a minute, we'll count them and we'll make sure that I have still got 80 as my whole. So I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Well, that's great. So I know how many in each part. Now what I need to do is I need to look at this naggy numerator, this one at the top here that's really bossy, that tells us how many parts I've got to count. And I can see from this numerator, I've got to count not 1 part this time, but I've got to count 3 parts. So here are my 3 parts that I'm going to count. And these 3 parts, when I put them all together, I've got 10, add 10, add 10. Those 3 parts are equal to 30. Okay. So 3/8 of 80 is equal to 30. Well done if you managed to get that right. That's a really good job. Have a go at this one then. There are 84 people at a concert and 5/6 of the people are adults. How many adults are there? What I'm going to do for this one is I'm not going to show you the answer on the screen here, but I will put the answers on the Google Drive at lunchtime today. Okay, so I want you to have a go at this one in a moment when I ask you to pause the video, and then you're going to have to pop over to the Google Drive to find the answers for this one. Otherwise, we're going to have a very long video. Okay, pause now, off you go. Fantastic, so well done for having a go at that one. Hopefully you can pop over to the Google Drive to see how you got on. Now, Amir's been using a bar model and he's been using place value counters to find quarters, okay? And you can see that he's partitioned his 84 up into his 10s and his 1s, a little bit like we did before. So I want you to use Amir's method to find 1/3 of 36, 1/3 of 45, and 1/5 of 65. So can you use, you might just want to use numbers, you don't have to draw place value counters. Can you have a go at that? Again, the answers will be in the Google Drive for this question. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to ask you to pause, have a go at those questions, and then hop over to the Google Drive to see if you were correct. Be your own teacher, mock your own. Pause now. Hopefully you managed to get all those right. We're looking at unit fractions here, aren't we? So our numerator is 1. I bet you can't guess what's under here. Ooh. You're going to use Amir's method to find not unit fractions, but non-unit fractions. So can you use the answers to these questions to help you here? Because it's not 1/3 of 36 anymore, it's 2/3 of 36. Think back to what we did all the way back here when we thought about, we had 1/6 here, but we needed to find 5. So what did we do? We multiplied the numerator, didn't we, by what we found here. Okay, so using what you know and your multiplication facts, can you work out these fractions of amounts? And again, the answers will be on the Google Drive. So you might not need to do a bar model, you should be able to use your multiplication to help you here. So pause now and have a go. Wow, I bet you did a really good job, and I know that I'm going to be super, super impressed. You've done a lot of maths today. You've done a lot of bar models, a lot of thinking about finding amounts with unit and non-unit fractions. So well done, good job. If you wanted to, there are a couple of extra problems in the Google Drive. If you want to stretch that brain a little bit more, you can, but you don't have to. They're just there if you want to have another go. I know lots of you like maths, so I've just popped them there for a little bit of an extra challenge to get that brain stretching a little bit more. Well done for today. There's going to be another video from me tomorrow. Okay, we're going to be thinking about fractions of quantities again. But well done for today. I want you to stop the video, go off. I want you to make yourself a nice drink, get outside, maybe do some star jumps or some jogging on the spot, bit of football, get outside and have a bit of fresh air because you've worked super hard in maths today. And I will see you tomorrow. See you later. Bye.